Afternoon, everyone. We're here in Crete by the Adriatic Sea on a week-long retreat, exploring how to develop the black man, the black male. And right now I'm here with a good friend who will introduce himself. And we're just going to explore his thoughts on how to raise a father. So, who are you?
Yo, you say, man, Brother Davis here in the amazing Crete in Greece. And as you can see, I'm a black man, I'm a brother, I'm my uncle, but most importantly, I'm a father. And for me, you know, like fatherhood is like the ultimate manifestation of manhood, in my opinion. When you look at it, you've got boyhood, you've got teenagers. Like for me, manhood, fatherhood is right at the top because we're passing that back on to the next generation.
To pass a baton, you have to practice. And in athletics, you race and you practice and you learn how to make that smooth transition. How do you do that as a father? How did you do that? How did you get your learning?
I got my learning. I would say I'm still learning. So it's not something that I've got and I'm sitting on the throne. Yes, I've secured it. It's in the bag. It's not that. I grow. Like I think you've got different types of fathers. You've got different types of men out there. Different types of humans. You've got some who reach a certain place in their life and they stay still. And you've got others that keep on growing. I've decided to grow with my children. So every time my children introduce something new to me through our conversations and our engagement, I have to grow with my son or with my daughter. And I find that extremely rewarding because every week I become a different type of dad, a different type of father. I have a different understanding. And that's coming from a place of allowing my child to teach me as opposed to me just teaching them and that's it. It becomes a relationship, a two-way process where I will sit down with my son and my daughter and share all of the things that I know, and then they will do the same. They will teach me some of the things that I need to know, some of the challenges that they have, or if some of the things that I've given them, they don't totally understand it because maybe they was the wrong age, I might have to wait for them to grow up a little bit and then I'll relay it again. Or sometimes I might have to relay it a different way because all children are different. So I can't rely on just telling them one thing, like do this. They might not understand it. I might have to take them on an experience because my child, my daughter, my son, they're two different people. So I found myself having to become so flexible. I've had to come like the ocean, like literally. I've had to like change the way I communicate, change the way I understand certain concepts or ideas, just so it lands with them differently. And for me, that learning in itself, it's amazing. It's not easy because I've had to like take off my jackets. You know, like you're wearing a coat and you zip it up.
Yeah.
Like my children have forced me. If I want to be effective, I've had to just unzip it and take it off. So taking off the layers.
Taking off the layers to your jacket. Where did you buy your jackets? Where did you get your jackets? What jackets did you know you needed to have? And when I ask that, it's looking at, because those are wise words you just said there, you know? And there's no manual. So, how did you know what to bring to the table for your children? How did you know what jackets that you needed to? Where did that start from?
For me, I like the jacket analogy, but I'll look at it as a carving. Yeah, you know, like when you got a carving, like it's a block of rock in it. Let me see if I can find a rock. If you have to like blow this up like 20 folds, so it's a big piece of rock. So this was me when I was born. yeah, pure, natural, whatever. And then I had to like chip away all of the rubbish that I didn't want. So all these things that I've gathered throughout my growth, it's not things that I've really asked for. It's just things that I've just accumulated my learning through my environment, you know. So again, the people I grew up around, they were misogynistic, they were power freaks, they were insecure, they were misunderstood, they misunderstood themselves. All of these things that we find that humans in general have. And then what I had to do, I had to release some of that, if that makes sense. So the jacket, I was born into jacket. I literally had to take off multiple jackets to become my true self. And those jackets were protecting me from what? From maybe the outside forces. It was maybe protecting me from my inner child. Maybe I was putting up the jacket so I could hide. There's so many different reasons why people wear jackets, but for myself, I had to let go of a lot of stuff for me to become. And now I'm at the point, even though I'm still becoming, I feel so light. When my children love being around me, I love being around them. People can they can see it visually, just based on my way of being. And I observe some of my peers and how they are with their parenting. I'm totally different to them because they're very old school. I am old school mixed with new school, if that makes sense. You know, so I've had to learn how to become.
How do you show your love?
So I show my love by understanding my children's love language. Yeah. My son, for instance, he loves quality time. He loves contact, the rough and tumble. Yeah. He loves the banter, the words of affirmation. He loves all of that. So I've not always been strong with words of affirmation because I was not raised that way. So I've had to force myself to express, to say, son, I love you. I'm there for you. Or how are you feeling? Or introducing him to my world of vulnerability. And as a result, he returns that in tenfold when he opens up and he expresses himself to me. So for myself, it's about understanding what their love language is. So it's not how I want to show love, it's how do they want to receive it.
And what's your daughter's love language?
My daughter's love language is definitely words of affirmation. And I was saying this to my friend the other day. It's like, I have my daughter every 2 weeks, yeah, because me and the mum are not together. Blah, 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 blah. And when she's around me, like, my little princess, she's always under my armpit. That's the analogy I gave. She's always just like, I'll be sitting there, there's space. She's right next to me. And in my head, I'm like, give me space, girl. But then I realized her love language is proximity. She just wants to be close to daddy. And, you know, and she's got her own reasons. I've not been asked her because I don't want to make it into a thing. I've just accepted it. She just wants to be close. You know, she loves quality time. If I'm late to pick her up, is an issue. I've never cancelled. In fact, yeah, I've never not seen her unless I've gone away. But other than that, I always make the effort, and that's become her understanding, or our relationship is like, Daddy's always there. So yeah, words of affirmation as well. Communication is her love language. Gifts, not so much. You know, physical contact, definitely. So yeah, so it's those kind of things, and the learning and the sharing and the laughter. So it's not about being rigid about it. For me, it's about incorporating it into my practices.
When you talked about your son, and also for your daughter, words of affirmation, because you said that's not how you was grown, that's not how you brought up.
Yeah. But sometimes as well, sorry, like you need that contrast. So I know what I didn't want, you know. So I know what the gaps are within myself. So
what didn't you want?
Pardon?
What didn't you want?
What didn't I want?
Yeah.
Growing up. What I didn't want is what I got. If that makes sense. You know, so I wanted my dad, for instance, he done his best with the tools that he had. So he was given tools, yeah, he played, like when you play cards, innit? Like, these are your cards, you play with the cards, you can't say, I don't want these cards no more. So they're the cards that he had. I would have loved for him to take me football, for instance, or to go to the park and play in the swings and all of that kind of stuff. Even though he was there, emotionally he wasn't there. So me and my dad didn't have those heart-to-heart conversations. It's only when I got older, I realized that, wow, for me to get closer to like women, you know, who wanted my emotion, I had to practice, I had to learn that. And those tools gave me the ability to be able to connect close with my children. So it's not only my children that benefit from me being this way, it's the people that I'm around. It's my loved ones, the community.
Can you go back to how you felt, if you can remember, how you felt when you realised you had to learn a different approach, a different way with your son and your daughter?
Not so much with my son. I think with my daughter, with my son, I feel I could be more authentic because he's with me all the time. You know, so I've grown with him and he's grown with me. So I've not had to be no other way. I would say my daughter prepared me for him. You know, so with my daughter now, that she's very, I would say she's an empath. So she thinks with her heart, if that makes sense, not in her mind. So she's very loving, very innocent, and so on and so forth. So where I might want to cuss her for doing certain things or saying certain things, I've had to say, Davis, if I cuss her, she's not gonna, it's gonna make her go inside of herself. You know, it's happened once or twice where she said something, she took a chance and she expressed herself and told me something, and I roared, you know, and she, and I was like, oh, that Davis, no, that's not the good approach, you know what I mean? So I've had to find a different way of communicating with her, and learning about identity and my identity as a father. And sometimes I don't always want to be the father. I might want to be the coach, or I might want to be the big brother, or I might want to be the friend, you know. So allowing my children to be comfortable enough to talk to me. So I would say, yeah, through my daughter and me trying to get through or trying to get a concept across, and me not wanting to force it on her, but her accepting it naturally. I had to learn how to speak different languages. And it's not just the language of verbal language, it's a language of being. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. You talked about you not growing up with your daughter, because
yeah, I'm not around her all the time.
Yeah, and
so there's a lot of building and unbuilding and undoing certain harms and so on and so forth. So
and what is that process like for you from when she was a baby?
Yeah.
And the split between you and her mother. How much was your daughter in the picture in terms of your mindset when you were going through that process of splitting with her mother? And then what was your mindset in ensuring that you were the best father you can be for your daughter?
You know, it's funny because it's not funny, it's very serious, but it's funny just looking back because I separated from my mum when she was 1, yeah, and she's 14 now. It's going to be 15 next month, October. And what I realised, like, no one taught me this, but I realised that I had to protect her well-being, her mental well-being. That was my first priority, you know. So I created a world around her, and that world was protection. So I didn't allow anything to interrupt what me and her was trying to create or recreate, if that makes sense. But as she got older now, especially now that she's 14 years old, I began to introduce her to a different world, if that makes sense, in terms of what happened. And because now she's in secondary school, now there's boys there, she's pretty, you know. So now we're having those conversations. So now I can incorporate those things. What I didn't want to do, because I see a lot of my friends fail epically, where their children might be 3 or 4 or 5, and they understand everything that's going on between mum and dad. I didn't want that, because I knew there was toxicity between me and my mum, her and her mum, and for me it was just like, you're not getting no toxicity from me.
Yeah.
Like, I can't control what's happening outside of that, so I had to literally cut that umbilical cord and say, when you're with me, I'm just going to shower you with love. That's it. I'm not going to say nothing bad about nobody. I'm just going to absorb it, and I'm going to sacrifice my ego. So I went through a sacrifice. I went through a rites of passage where there was multiple times I wanted to blow up. Multiple times that I just wanted to roar. But I know that if I roar, it's going to affect, you know, that water that she's in, that pure water is going to get contaminated. That's not fair on her, you know, so I absorbed it, you know what I'm saying? until she got to a certain age. So now I can start teaching it. It's become teachable moments now, and I can incorporate that into her education as she's now growing up. And now we're talking about guys and how guys are, and mindset, and that masculine energy and that feminine energy, relationships, and blah 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 blah. So I'm definitely it's like a pilot, innit? I don't know how it's gonna end up, but in my mind, I just know that I can't expose none of my children to mess. You know what I mean? It's not my mess, definitely. You know, whatever I've created, I've got to contain that over there, and allow them to create their own mess in their own way. So not generational, if that makes sense.
You talked about generational, and were you taught how to be a father?
No. I think you got different types of teaching, innit? You got direct and indirect, you know. I think directly, no. Indirectly, I had a lot of like father figures as I got older, especially, you know. That I said, yeah, I like that quality. But I didn't connect it to manhood. I didn't connect it to fatherhood. I just connected it to, that quality will make me a better person. You know. Everything that I do is self-taught. So no one taught me. I had to do it myself, and I didn't want no one to teach me, because every relationship is unique in its own way. You know, there's all these different variables that result in the children and their dad in this context, and so on and so forth. So you listen to people's stories, and the only thing that came to my head is, I'm not falling for that. That's not going to happen to me. You know, so I'll create shields and barriers to prevent that.
I heard you talk quite a bit about the protection, and the shields, and the coats and the zipping, and how important is that for your children? How important is that for yourself? And how do you ensure that in the future you will have those shields, that protection? And will you, and if you did, start stripping away some of that protection, what would it look like, and how would it feel like for you?
Okay. So the protection that I'm talking about is external forces. So for instance, if you're making like a cake, and you've got all the different ingredients there, you know, whether it's integrity or love, if you want to use that analogy, and then your phone rings or someone's at the door, would you leave the cake unattended and go and answer it, or would you cover it? You know, you could leave it unattended for the flies to come and poo-poo in it, or, you know, or other little debris might fall in it and it might contaminate your end product, or you can cover it. I've decided to cover it. Why? Because I understand that the external forces are real. Social media, my days, what they're watching on TV, the music, school, all of these things I listen to, and I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like, or even in the park, and I hear other little 9-year-olds, like my son just turned 10, but it was 9 last week. Just listen to other 9-year-olds and using their language. I'm just like, no, like, because I understand when they take that home, if it becomes normal, I've got a problem. You understand what I'm saying? I need to prepare them. Even in Black Panther, when you know, T'Chaka said to T'Challa, you know, my job is to prepare you for when I'm not here. I have to prepare them, and I cannot let external forces contaminate our creation, because we're co-creating. Me and my son have a contract, you know. It's not written down, but it's a contract. Like, he wants to be great, I want him to be. That's the contract. My daughter wants to be great. That's the agreement. But I understand that there's forces that they don't want that to happen, and it's so subliminal. And me and my daughter talk about it all the time. Me and my son talk about it all the time. It's about introducing to them through cartoons. That's why I love cartoons, because I don't want to scare my children. I don't want it to be all heavy, do Illuminati, New World Order. But it's real, you know, white supremacy, these things are real. We're part of racism, it's real. But I don't want my children to be insecure within that construct. So I can talk about superheroes, within that construct say, yes, these things exist, however, you are amazing, you are destined to overcome, and so on and so forth. So I created a culture in my house where we talk about cartoons and animation all the time within the context or the refines of you're going to be great. And there's things that exist out there, and identify it. But don't be afraid of it, acknowledge it from a distance, and know how to play the game. That's where chess comes in as well. So, and that's another way of protecting it. Because I hear some children or some parents talk to their children and they scare them with the heavy, low vibrating energy. That's not for me, you know?
Yeah.
That's not for me. I will stand there, I'm an old parent, innit? So I had my daughter when I was 30. So I've had all of my friends who were like in their late teens, early 20s, I've seen the way they parent. I'm just like, hell no. Because they're talking to their child, they're scared, they're not listening, they're not even ignited, they're not activated, they're like, and I see how their children have grown. I'm just like, they're way too advanced, way too sexualized, way too street, way too ghetto. And I'm just like, not my child. Not doing well in school. That's school's not the issue. They don't love education. They don't love learning. I don't want to be a part of that. Not within my household. So I have to make sure I give my children the tools so they can protect themselves. And the only way to protect yourself is to understand what your role is on this board game. What is your role? Before the role, what character are you? Are you the pawn? Are you the queen or king? What piece are you? Be very clear about that. Let's create a contract so we understand what we're playing and what the other pieces are out there and what's their role. But we've been saying that as well. I want to make sure that I don't project my dreams and visions onto my children. I want them to create their own dream and vision, and I'll help them generate that, if that makes sense.
And in the world of chess,
Yeah.
and in the world of fatherhood, sometimes get what you want, the end game, the checkmate. You may have to sacrifice some things. Have you thought about any of those sacrifices that you may have to make, or could you describe some of the sacrifices that you've already made?
I've been making sacrifices from day one, you know. Sacrifice of my ego, sacrifice of things that I want to say but I don't say it. When people ask me, Davis, why don't I eat meat, for instance? It's not. I don't care about the animals. It's not about the animals. It's not even about their health. It's about me being in control of my urges, me being in control of myself, you know. So me wanting meat every single day, yeah, is a sacrifice. And when I think about it, it brings me center. It brings me what am I here to do and why am I doing it? So I'm always aware, always thinking about what do I need to do in order to make sure that my children get the best out of me and I get the best out of them. That's just always on my mind.
Powerful. And
also for me, just keeping it very simple. I don't want to complicate things for my children. I want them to look at life. It's so beautiful. Look at this. The simple things the simple things. And I don't want to burden my children with the heavy energy, because understand this, when they get a little bit older, they're going to be exposed to that heavy energy. But when it comes their way, they're going to see it as, oh, it's not a police officer that thinks I'm racist, stopping, sir. It's, oh, that's a piece in the game. I understand that they're going to do that. I'm not going to try and stop them from doing it. That's what they're there to do. I'm going to focus on what I need to do within this situation. So my children need to learn the game. It's all about the game. What is the game that they're playing? Are they playing to win? Are they playing to lose? What character are they in the game? What is the avatar? Do you have the qualities? It's like when you're playing the game, are you playing level 1 or play level 2, level 3? Do you know who the enemy is in this game? Every game's got an enemy or boss. So I speak these metaphors all the time with my children just so they get it, because they love gaming. It's their generation.
Yeah.
And I understand if I don't do that, Dad is going to preach, you know. Dad is going to go in with that heavy. And I do it sometimes because I'm human, do you know what I mean? But then I've got to reframe it. But when I react, it just comes out, I start preaching, and it doesn't sink. But when you start breaking it down, that takes a lot of patience from me. So I need to sacrifice the way I really want to be, so they get the person that benefits them, which is the light-hearted, you know, the gaming jester of a dad. I love joking. I'm a fool around my children. Why? Because that's how they learn best. They learn through laughter, through analogies and short stories and examples and pull out their chest or playing blackjack. I just taught my son blackjack the other day. Like, it's a new game, but just understanding the psychology behind it, and the sacrifices I might want to sleep. For instance, like things that I want to do, but I can't do. Why? Because I need to focus on my children. You know. So sacrifice for me is very, very important. And I do it with a smile on my face. Like, I'll give you an example, for instance, like 2 quick ones. It might be small, but for me, it makes a massive impact. I love playing football, yeah? I'll play football on Sunday from 10 o'clock till maybe 1 o'clock. I come home shattered, brother, shattered. What do? As soon as I get through the door, Michaela, let's go to the park. Straight. I don't even wash sometimes. I sweat yourself. I take them straight to the park because I know that they want that time with daddy. And then we spade all day at the park. You know what I mean? Little things. I would rather sleep and watch match of the day. Do what there, that's what I'll do. I will eat, I have a little nap, I watch football. Sunday, I don't get no days off. You know what I mean? I don't get no days off. Or I've got my own company. I've got a few companies. But I understand that I've got work to do. I need to make sure that my son's in bed before I open my laptop and go in. Because I can't sit there on my laptop focusing on the empire, forgetting that he is my empire. She is my empire. I need to build them up first. So my rule is I don't do no work when they're around. I make sure they're in bed first. Or isolated and they're winding down, then I'll go into my time where I'll do my work. And these little things are important to them.
So a sense of 100% attention, not shared, not divided. It's daddy's here.
That's right, that's right. Even like just now on the beach with the brothers, I got I was playing some instrumental like hip hop beats. And someone asked me like, why this the beats? Because I can't play hip hop in my house because of the language. You know, so I've just got the beats.
Yeah.
There's no language there's no toxicity in my house. It's shut down. So that means I don't get to listen to the new Nas album or the new J. Cole album because my children listen to it and I can't normalize certain attitudes or languages or tones. Like, it's not fair on them. And they might misinterpret. So even for me, I'll be like, oh, it's just the F word or it's just talking about bees and hoes or whatever. I might understand it, but they might say, oh, daddy's normalizing that behavior. So when they're in the park now, getting to know girls or whatever the case is, or with my daughter, it's going to have an impact on their perception. Even the other day, me and my daughter had a big debate about why she can't listen to drill. You know what I mean? And I explained it. And I didn't say drill was bad. I said, when I listen to music that was toxic, this is how I treat people. I told her, I got my first tattoo here says game tight. I said, honey, why does my tattoo here say game tight? I don't know, daddy. Because the game was girls. And my game was tight. I had bare girls. I laid it out to my daughter. And I said, it's all because of the music. I was role modeling. And my daughter was like, she was listening. So I didn't make the music wrong. It was my interpretation of it. So now I left it to her. Like, there's no music around me anyway. But when you're with your mum, you decide, when you listen to it, ask yourself, what is this teaching you? And I left her with that. She needs to find her own way. So it's just non-stop, innit? It's like, you know.
It is, and her finding her own way. When you start letting the rope, when you start giving her a bit more slack, when you start shedding some of those protective coats.
Yeah.
Do you know when it is, or? I
don't. Mostly with my daughter, you know. She said, yeah, there's a guy that she likes. In my mind, I was just like, what the? And prior to that, I'm always joking, innit? Like, you know, I got my machete there. Like, I'm scared. Oh, come down to your school and da-da-da. But now she found the courage to tell me that. I'm like, okay, cool. Just remember the rules. I told her, remember the rules. Remember what guys are like. Become friends first, you know? And I just left her with that.
What are the rules?
Friendship, you know. Obviously there's no kissing and them things there, but get to know people, ask questions, be inquisitive, listen to what they say, watch what they do. Does it align, you know? Observe patterns, all of these things, and all that is back to the chessboard. Observe the pattern. everyone's got patterns. And I need to acknowledge as well that all of these things that I've given her, in particular, because she's the oldest, it might not work out, you know, the way I want it to, but it's the lesson. So I need to know within myself that I've given her the tools. Now it's up to her what she needs to do.
Now, she's learnt a lesson from you. She's playing the game of chess, and it seems like she's heading for being checkmate. What type of daddy is daddy going to step in, and what type of daddy will that be who steps in?
I don't know yet. How I be depends on her. How she shows up, if that makes sense. So if she shows up all bossy or whatever, then the character that I will present will be not necessarily in opposition, but will be there to kind of challenge that identity that she's created. We've all got different personalities, do you know what I mean? So it depends on how she is. What I know is that I need to be like water. However I am, you know, I need to make sure that the message lands. And if that means that I'm multiple personalities in the space of 5 minutes, then so be it, you know. And once I find the one that resonates, then that's the one that I stick with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm never one person. When I'm having a conversation, I'm never this, you know. I might all of a sudden start getting angry and then I'll switch it. So it's a game, you know. And I don't shout at my children. I can't remember the last time I roasted my children, you know, because I don't have to get comfortable with daddy roasts. You know what I mean? But when I roar, all my days, like their hearts tremble because they're not used to it. You know what I'm saying? So I want them to be. I don't want to be predictable. I want them to start asking themselves, what's daddy gonna do? What's gonna be the reaction? But they know the core of me is always loving, always attentive, always there.
Yeah.
They know that daddy's got different characters. I explain that and I encourage them, like, play the game. What character are you going to be in this conversation? Do you know what I mean? And they understand it, but there needs to be an element of me not knowing. Yeah, me not being a control freak. So me going into the situation, like, okay, how are we going to work at this? Because I don't have all the answers. So that's me allowing myself to be vulnerable, and allowing my daughter to guide me. How would you want me to relate? Or how would you want me to react to this? You know, and see what the response is. And then give my daughter what she wants. And then saying what I want to say if it's appropriate. So again, it's about really listening and tuning in to their frequency and matching their frequency.
And that bring us all the way back to when you started. Just now you talked about frequency, tuning into their frequency. When we started, you talked about tuning into their love language. And I think everything you said here today resonates powerfully with that. So
and one thing that I've done as well, sorry, that I forgot to mention, that I recognize that it's not just about me. Yeah. So, you know, there's an African saying, leaders try and create a future for their children without their children. So meaning leaders will work hard, leave their children at home, and they're working. The children are over there, they're working. I incorporate my children in what I'm doing. All of the events that I do, my children are with me, if they're available, do you know? So what that means, if I'm going out and flying, or going out at an event, we've got a store there, my children are there. I introduce my children to my network.
To your world.
To my world, do you know? And they call everyone uncle, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and everyone knows my son, especially because he's around me all the time. My daughter, when she's with me, do you know, which is more often than not, people know her. And they know that if I'm not there, we've got an army there.
Yeah.
And they're on call, they understand the Wagwan. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's the relationship that I want, that it's not just about me. I understand that sometimes we use Uncle Albert. We use Albert as an example. Yeah. I would say to my children, do you know what? Speak to Uncle Albert about that. Just because I might be like, I might get triggered or get a different energy. You know what I mean? Or they might talk to one of the sisters in my circle. Just get a different energy. So I share my children or my daughter's WhatsApp with my people as well. They have conversations, and I told them, don't tell me what you lot talk. Have your own genuine conversation over there. because I understand that my daughter, as she gets older, she's going to be exposed to a world. And sometimes what I realised, I work with a lot of young boys that are in gangs and all kind of toxic madness, they don't have no balance. It's this negative, grime, ends, that's it. Where's their positivity coming from? It's not there. I know my children are going to be exposed to that as they get older. It's there, it's all around them, you know. That we live in a certain area, the crime is there, school, so on. But I want to make sure that they've got that balance as well. So now they can get to choose, you know.
All right. That's part one, Davis.
Yes.
And
thank you for the questions that no one's ever asked me, you know. So it's powerful stuff.
you know, it's a privilege just to hear you and to feel your energy, and that's what's coming through for me. Your energy is unabated. It's just like the sea tide. It's your legacy is here. You are a living legacy.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Come on, I'm just